So, a very good afternoon to all my dear students. I welcome you all into the Industrial Pharmacy 2. Dear student, we had already started our topic that is related with the regulatory affairs, isn't it? Now, what is this regulatory affair? It is a particular department dealing with that of the companies. It is a particular department with dealing with that of the government affairs. It is a particular department associated with that of the government regulations, and that is the new area, that is the new profession which is going to upcoming, which will associated with all kinds of filing processes, all kinds of approval processes for the drugs and pharmaceuticals are concerned. And especially the peoples, the students belonging to that of the pharma, they are having the great opportunity as far as to work in this particular area is concerned, that is the regulatory affair. There is a particular course which is said to be the MPharm in regulatory affair, that you can go with the regulatory affair in case of MPharm also, where you can upgrade your knowledge associated with this area and you can become the professionals. And the companies, pharmaceutical companies, as well as the academics, academicians, institutions, they are in need of the people who are having the knowledge of the regulatory affair. As I said that it is the upcoming and growing profession. So there is a need, there is a lack of the experts from this particular area. And those who are having the knowledge, they are having great demand in case of the pharmaceutical industries. So till so far in our previous lecture, we saw that it is the particular department and the people who are going to be working into that, these are said to be the regulatory professionals, and the department that is associated and dealing with that of the approval processes. Now, today we will see that what will be the roles of the regulatory affair personnel in case of pharmaceutical industry, and what are their responsibilities that we have to see as a professionals in case of the regulatory affair department. Now, if you want to move to the roles of these people, they will be having their role in case of the management. You can see the regulatory affair in case of the product management. The key role of a regulatory affair professional is broader than the registration of the product. Simply, it does not mean that the to carry out the process of registration there only it will not stop, but it is beyond that one. They advise companies both strategically and technically at the highest level. That means they will going to act as a advisor. They will advise the companies. They will act as a advisor. Their role begins from the development of a product, making, marketing, and the post-marketing strategies. They will develop the product, they will market the product, and they will do the post-market studies. Their advice at all stages, both in terms of legal and technical. The regulatory affair that is more and more oriented toward the legal as well as to that of the technical requirement that will help the company to save a lot of time. We already discussed that. Even a month delay into the filing processes, that will be the huge loss to the pharmaceutical company. So they had their active role in case of the product management, right from its development, legal, technical requirement, and to file it and to save the time. So lot of time and money in developing the product and marketing. The same for the countries that do not have their own regulation, the World Health Organization guidelines on the health matters and World Trade Organization on the trade regulations between nations is the follow. So those who don't have their own regulatory, they will follow the guidances that will be given by the WHO. as far as the process of trades are concerned. Next, there is a role of regulatory affair professionals, personnel, in case of the clinical trials. The regulatory affair professionals is the primary link. It is the link between what? It is the bridge between what? Bridge between the company and the government, between the company and the worldwide regulatory agencies such as US Food and Drug Administration and Center for the Disease and the Radiological Health. This department dealing with what? This department that will deals with the pharmaceutical. This department will deal with the agrochemicals. This department will deal with the medical devices, isn't it? This department that will deals with the healthcare products. The United Kingdom. Therapeutic Good Administration. So all these are the different regulatory agencies that already we saw in our previous lecture. The US, the Canada, the Australia, they will be having their own. For our India, we will be having our own CDSCO, isn't it? So that is, for US, it is the US FDA. So they will be having their role in case of the clinical trials, and the guidelines which are given by the regulatory agencies, that is to be followed by that particular countries. The regulatory affair professionals, they will be having their role in case of the R&D also. The regulatory affair personnel, they work hard, they work hand to hand in marketing and R&D to develop, innovate the product that take the advantage of a new technological and the regulatory developments and accelerate the time to the market. They are involved in the process of the innovation. That means how to modify the product, how to improve the product, how to go for innovating the product so that it will be helpful to the mass community. With the new product expected to add significant revenues to the company's bottom lines, right? The main purpose of innovation is what? To generate the revenue, to raise the funds to that of the pharmaceutical companies. Already there is an existing product, isn't it? The market is get saturated with this product. So how to bring boost into the market? So we have to come with some of the innovative and the new ideas. Small decrease in time to market equate to large material gain in the revenue and the profit. Employing adaptive clinical trial strategies, obtaining quick approval forms, regulatory authorities, and avoiding pitfalls in the processes that can accelerate the development of the new product and will help to reduce the costly errors and the time lag. Time lag, that is to save the time, reduce the cost of the product, reduce the expenditure, so which will ultimately makes the company to make the product available at an affordable price to the patients. The next is working of regulatory affair information. So the people, they are working for collecting the information, for gathering the information. Regulatory is the interface between the company and the sponsor and the outside world. The regulatory department is the focal point of information, both incoming and the outgoing. In order to practice regulatory and succeed, both in objective and the public measures and internal ones, that is the recognition and the reward. The RA personnel, these are useful in case of the gathering of the information. All the information that should be ethical, proper documentation, any opportunity to see, hear, and talk with a regulator, a more experienced drug development experts, a colleague, or a sworn enemy is an opportunity to gather the information. So there are n number of peoples from whom we can go for collecting the information. We can collect the information from the expert, we can collect the information from the friends, we can collect the information from the enemies. Always in case of business, we should never let enemy to know that he is our enemy, because we may go for collecting, we may go for gathering some of the information of his or her company, and that might be useful for us in order to improve the product and revenue of our company. We can collect the information from the regulators also. So all these are the roles that will be played by the regulatory affair professionals. And last but not the least, that is the communication information. So we can go for communicating the information. The easiest way of information is to share, communicate is a non-critical information. Any information which is important for a company, that information that should not be shared, that should not be communicated with other peoples. The main issue with such information is getting the right audience without boring them into the forgetting that they are getting useful data. So just important thing is that what is the outcome of this? We should not disclose the critical information related with our company. So all these are the different roles that will be played by the regulatory affair professionals, personnel. They will be having their role in case of the product management. They will be having their role in case of clinical trial. They will be having their role in case of research and development. They can go for collecting the information related with that of the regulatory affair process. They can collect the information from the competitors, and they can communicate the information which is non-critical to the manufacturers or to the parent companies. So all these are the different roles that will be played by the regulatory affair department, and the young graduates in case of pharma, they are having the great opportunity as far as this particular area is concerned as a career, looking toward all these roles. Now let's move toward the responsibilities of a regulatory affair personnel. Now, if you see the responsibility that is associated with the skills and attributes, that is associated with the trends. Now, what the skills the people, the personnel, they should have? See, the basic thing which is important in our today's date is the IT knowledge, the influence of IT literacy. Today, if you don't have the knowledge of ICT, that is the information and the communication technology, that is how to handle the PCs, how to handle the general softwares like say the Words, PowerPoints, and all, you are going to be treated as a illiterate. Although you are a graduate, but if you don't have the knowledge of ICT, you are going to be treated as a digitally illiterate in today's era. So particularly this pandemic that had given great opportunity to all of us to explore all these ICT tools and to become techno savvy and to become IT literate. So just take a lesson from this, and if you don't have sufficient IT knowledge, just to go on undergoing some of the courses which will going to be offered by the various companies like say the TCS and all, or say the SWAM platform, or say the Coursera. So all these are the online platforms from where you can go for upgrading your IT knowledge. You can upgrading your ICT knowledge. Work independently. You should not depend on to the others. You should trust in yourself. You should be honest with your job. You should be honest with your duties. That is most important when in case of the regulatory affairs, because every time you cannot depend on to the other, and generally surrounding to us the peoples are such that who will just try to skip away from their duties and their responsibilities and just to throw their responsibilities onto your shoulders. So it's better not to do the work instead of depending on to the others. So we should develop the ability, we should have the skill of working independently. Persuade accuracy, be accurate. What the format has been given, what is the requirement, what is the necessity of the portal. Based on that, you need to go for submitting the data, for which you need to first of all go through the thorough knowledge. You should go through the FAQs, frequently asked questions. Most of the concept that will get clear with all these. Then only then you can move toward the accuracy. And see, accuracy, it is not just say that we can learn in a day or 2 day or a week or a month. It is the continuous process. It is the lifelong journey, right? Through trial and error, through your experiences only, you can achieve the accuracy. But through the every trial and error, through the every trial and error, you should learn something. The thing is not that every time you should go for the trial and error. An effective negotiator, isn't it? You want to deal as a representative of your company with that of the government organizations, with that of the government schemes. So you should go for negotiating the things. You should go on putting your USPs, your pharmaceutical companies unique selling points, right? Present quality, right? So we should always concentrate, no doubt in case of the pharma sector we have to concentrate on to the quality, but whenever the question will come of representation, always we should give preference to that of the quality aspects. Excellent writing and the communication skills. You should have the knowledge of the fluency as far as the English speaking is concerned, writing is concerned, communication is concerned, your body language, your personality, your way of communication, isn't it? Your etiquettes, all these are very, very important, and they that are needed to learn and to improve. Listen actively, isn't it? You should not hear, but you should listen. There is a great difference between the hearing and the listening. All, let's say, for example, we are sitting into the class, right? We are sitting into the class, the lecture is going to be delivered by the teacher, by the professor. So we should listen to the lecture. At the same time, we can hear all the surrounding sounds, right? But our concentration is on to the words that are spoken by our professor. So that is listening. We are not concentrating what is happening outside of our class, right? So we are hearing all those things, but we will listen to the important thing. Just if I want to give you the another example, there is a baby, there is a mother, right? In the cities like say the Mumbai's, there is a rail track, isn't it? Local rail track, just surrounding or just near to their home, right? There is a great noise. There is a very huge trouble of the train. And suppose if the mother is sleeping aside to that of her child, and in such a noise, in such a disturbances and the troubles of rail track of local trains, if the child that will wake up and if the child will cry in a very, very small intensity, the mother that will get wake up, isn't it? So this is because of what? This is because of the listening. She is listening to her children. She is listening to her infant, but she is not listening the, or she is not concentrating onto the voice of that rail track, isn't it? So that is the basic difference between the listening. Listen actively. You should not hear, but you should not listen. Interpret and consolidate the data, right? So in order to interpret data, you should have the knowledge detailed in depth as far as the data which you want to represent is concerned. Always keep in your mind that the half knowledge is always dangerous. Someone had prepared some data, and if you are going to be representing that one, and yourself you had prepared that data and you are representing that particular data, in which particular case you can interpret in a better way. Of course, the data which you had prepared yourself, that you can interpret, that you can represent in a very perfect way compared to that of the data which is obtained from someone else, or someone who had prepared that one. Strong follow-ups and convincing ability. We should have the ability of convincing to the others, and the technical sound knowledge of all the processes, what the product is there, how that product is to be prepared, what are the specifications, what are the evaluation parameters. All these things are necessary to have, and the knowledge related with that. So these are some of the emerging trends that are there in case of the regulatory affair department, where we will be having the opportunity, strong growth into the emerging market because of the regulatory affair, because of the approval process and all. The market is getting emerging. The market is getting expanding. So the regulatory professionals, they will be having their opportunity. Acquisition and licensing opportunities. The one who had what to say, that patent period is over. Once the patent period is over, then we can go for acquiring. We can go for overtaking that particular licensing and all. Once the patent is completed after 20 years, we can go for applying freshly. So in order to take the approval, again that will fall under the regulatory affair. Biologic and the biosimilar market expansion. See, if you just see the era before it is, there was the market of pharmacy that was totally dominated by the pharmaceutical markets. But 80 onward, if we see, most of the company, they are investing in the R&D as far as the biopharmaceuticals products are concerned. And now today, if you see, the term that is the pharma company, that will get replaced by the biopharmaceutical companies or the pharma biotech companies. So that is because of the influence, that is because of the emerging bio products, biological products and the biosimilar products. Aging population, the aging population that is getting increased. So how to make the product comfortable to them, again there will be having the opportunity. The new product development strategies, right? The life of the product, once it will get completed, once it will get over, so the product sale that will goes down. So in order to reintroduce that product, we should go for some new product development, either in the form of packaging or in the form of formulation. Some rare diseases, like say the best example of the today's, that is the COVID-19, isn't it? A very rare disease is there. No one had heard this particular disease disorder COVID-19 before the November 2019 or the December 2019, isn't it? Do anybody knows? No one knows. But now this disease is uh, capturing the whole world, and again there is a great opportunity to work on to this one, like say the rare diseases and all. So to go for finding the vaccines, to go for finding the remedies, the medicines which are working effectively into the COVID-19, that will give the great opportunity to earn and to increase the profit and revenue of the pharma companies. Quality aspects in the entire supply chain, right? We can go for modifying the process of the supply chain. ICH expansion. Day by day, the ICH guidelines that are going to be increasing for each and every step, there is ICH guideline. So the regulatory affair people, they will be having opportunity to work onto that one, to explore the areas, the details associated with that of the uh, ICH. Collaboration among the regulatory agencies. The people, they can collaborate the government agencies, because these are the bridge, these are the ledge, and these are the link between these two, that is the pharma companies and the government regulatory agencies. If you see the global market, that is going to be divided into the two market, that is the regulated market and the semi-regulated market. Now, if you see the regulated market, generally the name will come of the US, UK, then Germany, France, Ireland, Sweden, Japan, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. The market related with all these, that is totally regulated one. That means if you want to introduce the product, 100% we require the regulatory approvals. There are some semi-regulated markets, and these are there are 4 to 5 different types. Like say they are going to be divided into the Asian market, African market, Middle East countries market, Latin America, and the CIS, that is the Commonwealth of the Independent States. So these are the countries which are belonging to that particular markets. Next to that one, the responsibilities of the regulatory affair professionals. Now, what is the responsibility of the RA personnel? The responsibility first is that is ensuring that their companies comply with all of the system policy and laws pertaining to their business. Right, very correct. All the technical aspects, all the legal aspects that are to be complied by their pharmaceutical companies. That is complying with all the policy, laws, legal aspects, and the technical aspects to that of the business. That is the first responsibility of the regulatory personnel. Second, working with the federal, state, and the local regulatory agencies. Working with the state agency, working with the national agency, working with the international agencies, and staff on specific issues distressing their commerce. That is working with agencies as the Food and Drug Administration or the European Medicines, Pharmaceuticals, and the medical devices. Let us say the people who are going to be totally 100% or completely, these are dealing with that of the pharmaceuticals. That is their area. The people who are dealing with that of the medical devices. Nowadays, the medical devices, these are going to be totally separated from that of the pharmaceuticals. So again, there is a great opportunity in the medical devices to work with. Advising their companies on the regulatory aspects and climate that would affect proposed actions. That is the describing the regulatory climate in the region of issues such as the endorsement of the prescription drugs. The regulatory affair personnel, they will act as a advisor, to whom they will act as advisor to the companies onto the regulatory aspects, onto the legal aspects, onto the technical aspects, onto the approval aspects, and the climate that would affect the proposed actions. And suppose what will happen if that is not going to be followed? So ultimately that may results into the disapproval, or sometime once the product that will get disapproved, that means again it will reflect onto the revenues of the company. The company may suffer by the loss. The regulatory affair professional's job is to keep track of the ever-changing legislation in all the countries where company want to register their product. Yes, this is most important because say they should remain updated. Whatever the new day by day, all these regulations are getting changing based on the requirement, based on the necessity, based on the improvement, based on the modification, based on the upgradation. What are the changes new that are coming into the market? The regulatory affair professional, they should remain updated with all these. They should have the track of all these changing regulations, and accordingly they can guide to that of the pharma companies. They advise at all stages, both in terms of legal and technical requirement, and restrain help companies save a lot of time and money. Yes, most important, advising the legal and the technical issues in order to save their time and in order to save the cost of the product. In an organization, their prime responsibility involves the preparation and presentation of the registration document. What is their responsibility? The preparation and representation of the registration documents. To whom? To the regulatory agencies, and carry out all following discussion to obtain, maintain market authorization for the product. To get product market authorization, that is the most important one. They need to keep a track of ever changing legislation. All this, this is already we had our. It may take nearly 15 years to develop and launch a new pharmaceutical product, and many problems may arise in the process of scientific development due to changing of regulatory environment. See how much large amount of time that will going to be taken by the pharmaceutical company to develop and the launch of the product. So if we are not concentrating onto the regulatory aspect, onto the approval aspect thoroughly, so if we are not getting the approval, then the efforts of all these 15 years that will goes into vain. So that is what is important as far as the regulatory processes are concerned. And these are the references that we had used for the preparation of this particular lecture. Thank you very much to all of you.